What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Fig Night at the Tavern. I am the OG Fig Kid. As usual, joining me, this guy.
Mike Flippin' Bellcaster, ready to roll as always.
And the guy down beneath us from down under.
Me. It is I, the Australian icon, Nick Storm. Oh my goodness.
Nick Storm, a little under the weather down under, but toughing it out for
Could you
Fig
believe
Night.
it? Yeah. Well, there you go. Storm, weather, under the weather. I'm under the storm.
There you go, guys. Welcome to the 50th episode of Fig Night at the Tavern.
Yeah. This is huge. I joined, I think, late along, but you guys were holding it down for 50 episodes now. So this is crazy to be a part of, first off. And it's a huge kind of celebration. And guys, we got a big payoff for a huge celebration. So
absolutely.
But
it's going to be a good time, as always is.
Yeah, I mean, while we wait for our guest, guys, you know what? We just have a little bit of news we'll touch on real quick. Why don't we just see what was announced today?
And now to figure news.
Well, Mattel announced their San Diego Comic-Con exclusive today, Nick. And boy, what a doozy it is. Let's just show everybody what it is right here. Boom.
Yep.
We've got the No Holds Barred 2-pack, Hulk Hogan, Rip, and Zeus. And man, the Mattel has knocked it out of the park again with their Comic-Con exclusive. Let's just go through some of these pictures. That's the custom hands.
This is Zeus, man. This Zeus looks amazing. Like I saw photos of it this morning. I woke up. Look at that. That's just his face right there.
It nailed the friggin' eye and everything. It's not a misprint of the eye, folks. That's how Zeus's eye was.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's fantastic, man. This is great.
And you can get these next week if you're at San Diego Comic-Con on the 20th, or they will be up on Mattel's website on the 22nd, I think at noon Eastern time, 9 Pacific. So,
hey, Tom.
Yes.
What kind of memories do you have from this match?
I remember my uncle taking me to the movie theater to see the movie.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I was a little kid at the time. I was a little Fig Kid. And I remember being so excited because there was a wrestling movie with Hulk Hogan in it. I thought that was amazing. And then the thing that was more scary was when Zeus showed up on WWF television at the time to come after Hogan. And I just remember being a kid like, oh my God, Zeus is here. So
did I say match? I meant to say movie. I just called myself Mantle.
It turned into a match. I mean, look at the entrance here for Zeus here. This is phenomenal. This is phenomenal. But,
that is beautiful, yeah.
That is beautiful. Wow. We need a Mike back here. We got a bunch of people in the chat with us. Guys, welcome, guys. If you're not following us already, go to theturnbuckletavern.com. Follow us everywhere you possibly can.
Ooh, I'm back.
All right. Mike is back. Welcome back, Mike. And now it's time for our main event, guys. Here we go.
I got something for you this time. I got a guy I want to talk to.
Yo, what is up, sir? Thank you for joining us. We have today with us the legend, the Fig God himself, Mr. Jeremy Padawer.
Wow.
Welcome to the show, man.
That's amazing. Thank you for that lovely, and you know, I don't know if anyone's ever described me as a Fig God. I'll take it.
Oh, no one's described you as a Fig God. You should just walk around like that's your name, Jeremiah the Fig God. That in and of itself is a classic little string of words.
Yeah. Wow, I feel like I'm amongst royalty here. Like you guys, all three of you guys are all over the figure universe, especially in our world. You guys are leaders in our community. It's so nice to be here. What's up? Oh, look at these. I can't believe it. You guys are being so nice. Thank you. Thank you.
This is an honor. This is like a dream come true for us. Like our 50th episode, we couldn't have planned it any better. And you know, I got to say, like before the whole pandemic thing, you know, we were fans of the Major Pod, and they had spoken about you, how you were the fig god on there, and all about the Jacks. And then they came up with that interview with you, and that was like the real first thing I feel like us figure fans got to hear from you. We were clamoring for it. We wanted more, but at the time, it felt like you were so like elusive, like nobody had real contact. And then the pandemic hit, and you joined social media. And you start posting and you're chatting, and I slipped into your DMs, and you would chat with me many times. And during a dark period for all of us, like you were that light for me and for so many people, just seeing your posts and talking to us. And it just meant so much. So on behalf of all the wrestling figure fans, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, because I still look forward to your posts, and it just means so much when we see you. You teach us, you share memories, like you mean the world, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Listen, that was all purposeful. I mean, and so way back in the day, I was really early in terms of communicating with people that were part of the fandom for whatever brand I was working on online. And social media changed everything, from having your own websites to really joining up with a existing platform. But I had never really done that. I was focused entirely on my like Facebook and family and friends like that. But yeah, the pandemic was interesting. I needed to connect with people. I was feeling truly off kilter. Like I was like, it wasn't to self-promote. It wasn't to do anything. It was just to try to add some positivity out there in a time where I knew that I was like really lacking connection with people. And no, I really appreciate that you identify that and the timing, because it was all very purposeful.
It hit home. Like I said, you bought me a Cletus Dukes of Hazzard figure to complete my collection during one of your contests on eBay. So it was just a great time. And I know you're my age, so I know the Dukes of Hazzard. So
oh, please, I had the General Lee. And I there was a promotion. I forget which restaurant did a promotion, but they were giving away General Lee's, I think, with hamburgers sold. And I don't remember. I think one of the reasons why I'm 25 pounds overweight today is because of all the General Lee hamburgers I ate to try to get as many of those vehicles as I could.
Amazing.
Were you successful in their attempts?
Oh, dude, I had so many General Lee's. I would do exactly what they do on the show. I would figure out ways to destroy them, throwing them out in the car, like whatever I could do.
Yeah. Oh my god, that seems like it'd be a staple. Like it seems like some. Speaking of the staples, Tom, but it sounds like something that it's just like kind of a must. Like it's like you don't really have a choice. It's just embedded in your brain and in your stem. You know what I mean? You just got to do that.
Yeah.
At that point.
Break stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah. Break stuff. Yeah. Especially. Oh my god. Yeah. Break stuff.
We did when we
especially
were
it comes
kids.
to General Lee's. Yeah. Exactly. All we did was break stuff.
then that makes me think. What were your favorite toys as a kid?
If I go all the way back to being like a little kid, it was Hot Wheels. I loved Hot Wheels. I'd line them all up on one side of the room. I would gently move each one of them a little bit until I found my way all the way across the floor, and one of them would win. And really, it was weird because it was almost like it was happening on its own. Like I never even had a plan. And a different car would win. I'd be like, "Oh my God, this is the winner right here!" You know what I mean? Like, and then as I got a little bit older, like when I was 12, I believe that's when the LJN figures hit retail, and that was a game changer because before that I was using GI Joes as wrestling figures. And I'll give you, I've said this before, but one of the coolest points in my life was when I joined JAKKS in 2002, I believe. I sat down with the CEO. His name was Jack Friedman, and he was also the J in LJN. So
Wow.
I was really lucky. I was in my 20s and given the opportunity to head up the boys group there after a stint at Mattel, and I just happened to be the right person at the right time because the WWE brand at that time was being treated like a toy property and not as a collectible property, and the Attitude Era had just ended. And with the end of the Attitude Era, meant, a lot of eyeballs were leaving the game, especially younger folks who no longer were specifically interested for whatever reason. And because the toys were being treated like because it was being treated more like toys, where you were not necessarily manufacturing authenticity. And there wasn't like a clear series like dropping of toys in a way that you could predict. It was low hanging fruit. It really was. So ruthless aggression and all that other stuff came from that. And but yeah, the LJN guy, Jack Friedman, my boss, he was a cool guy.
Wow.
Cool.
So this
That's
explains, you grew up my age, so it explains your connection to LJNs. And I love when I have all the LJNs from the JAKKS Classic Superstars line. I love the LJNs we're getting in the AEW Jazzware line. There we go.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a gold one.
It's good.
I love the LJNs. So that I get it. Our age people, and you're the reason when you took over and I started seeing classic superstars in the store of wrestlers from when I was a kid. You're the reason I got back into it.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. And that was the Classic Superstars was one of the very first ideas I had at JAKKS. And I was like, because we met with Walmart. And I think it was either late 2002 or early 2003. And they were like, we were going to get pulled off the shelf. We had a very short window in order to save it. And I went to Vince McMahon and I said, look, I was like, I love wrestling and I'm a collector lifelong. And if I want to, collect baseball or basketball or football or hockey, I can collect the entire history of it. But it seems like in wrestling, out of sight, out of mind. And I understand why you do what you do, but I think that there's a lot of new business to be generated on the classic roster. And he said to me something to the effect of, how do you essentially protect WWE's future interests in having a alumni association if you, a toy company, are signing up these guys individually? And I essentially said to him at the time, well, what we could do is sign a deal with the individual classic athletes, classic superstars. And if they ever signed a deal to the alumni association, we would lose the rights, but gain them through you. And we would pay them out entirely, whatever they needed to be owed on the MG, and you guys would inherit it because it would be a zero-sum game for us. And he did it. He agreed. And you saw Series 1 included some amazing and unexpected superstars. And it was great. He definitely lived up to the concept that if it was good for business, he'd do it. Absolutely, with me, he did for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, really cool. I mean, you brought out some really, really big names for that first line too, which I think really sealed the deal for collectors, especially people that were collecting beforehand and kind of dipped out of the game, like Tom and myself. And once we seen that first lineup, we were like, man, it's go time. Like we got to get back on the saddle, man. And it really like opened up our eyes to what collecting can be in the wrestling world. I think it wasn't just play sets and random figures here and there. It was these awesome, beautifully packaged as well, by the way, but awesome, just superstars lives. This is something you see on the shelf and it catches your eye so much. And I think that's why the AEW line looks so beautiful on shelf as well, is because it's got that same kind of flow to it. And like you see it, it's eye catching. No, not a lot of product out there, especially in today's day and age, that has that glam and glitz with it. And I love it.
You bring up a good point, Mike. You were talking about AEW, and I want to know how you got started back into wrestling figures like that. You co-founded Wicked Cool Toys, I believe, and then that kind of turned into what we know as like the AEW Jazzwares partnership now, and just Jazzwares as a whole. So I want you to get into how that started, and then how it's progressed today.
Well, I was always bummed that we lost WWE back in the day. We didn't lose it for reasons that about quality or about it being a great line. There were some conflicts that were going on that were pretty public, that were happening at a high level. And it was a bummer for me. And I always wanted to get back into the wrestling game. And when we started Wicked Cool Toys back in the day, about 10 years ago, one of the thoughts was that it's really difficult to compete with these other massive toy companies on trying to sign up these giant licenses. And it wasn't realistic that we were going to become, Mattel's master toy partner when Mattel had it. I'm sorry, WWE's master toy partner when Mattel already had it, excuse me. And so our idea was that we would start the company and we would focus on secondary categories and we would give retail better margin. So for instance, if there was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figures and retail was making, $2 on that, we could make the wall walkers and they'd make $3 on it. And so the idea was if they could make more money with us, even though we had sort of the inferior category, at least they would be interested in maybe replacing some of their less productive SKUs with some of the things that we were bringing. And that was the way we started. And WWE was one of the licensors that, we had a lot of credibility with, primarily because of the long relationship that I had with them. And we signed them and signed some, again, inferior categories. Now, some were cool, like the big ring and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was like, margin builders for retail. So if they were taking 17 items and 4 of them were from us, the 4 that they were taking from us were better margin. And over the course of time, we were able to graduate from being a company that focused on value, but with big brands, to company that had big brands of our own. Like we took over the Pokemon business and Coco Melon. And then we were acquired by Allegheny Capital, which is private equity, and JAZWARES, which was their primary acquisition in the toy space. And shockingly enough, we then together bought Squishmallows and Kelly Toy, and now we're the 4th largest toy company, which is absolutely insane.
That is huge, yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
But here's how AEW came around. So when we were still Wicked Cool Toys, the one thing that I always told my partner in the business was that I'm looking for 3 things from a wrestling organization. I'm looking for a billionaire to start a new wrestling organization.
It's a good start.
It's a very capital intense business. And I think people really underestimate wrestling if you're trying to do it on a global level. Regional wrestling organization or a city oriented wrestling organization doesn't require that kind of capital. But if you're trying to do a national wrestling organization or a global one, you're going up against monsters, right? You're trying to slay dragons. So I needed a billionaire, right? I needed to see that billionaire had good creative sensibilities. And then I wanted to see that they had a great network lined up. So a little birdie whispered in my ear that a billionaire was starting a wrestling organization. And that little birdie will remain anonymous until that birdie allows me to say who it was. But I'm very appreciative to that birdie. Anyway, so birdie whispered in my ear, this is going to be happening. Thought that's really cool. And the person who told me was so credible. I thought, wow, okay. So I reached out, had conversations with, Chris Harrington and Nick Sobek and the team. And there were just a couple people there. I think it was early 2019 or late 2018, one of the two. And then I saw who was joining. Omega and Jericho and the Young Bucks, and that only further, I would say, pushed me down the side of like, wow, okay, creative sensibilities are here. And then they announced the broadcaster, but we signed on with them so early that we're not only their first partner, but we're probably their 6th or 7th. Like we probably came in like employee number 7. Although we're not employees, we're our own standalone company. If we were going to gauge it in time, like we were that early. Wow. But then I saw the content and I just knew like this has got it. This is a real deal.
That's awesome, man.
So 2-part question then. When did you, as a kid, first fall in love with wrestling? Do you remember the moment? Yeah,
I do. Well, so first of all, in the early 80s, I loved regional wrestling. And if it wasn't Jerry Lawler or the Von Erichs or But regional wrestling was really cool because essentially what could happen is anything, right? If you've got a national or a global company, you've got a lot more predictability. But if you've got regions, you could have Kamala come to town and they build up this character for 6 weeks and he's invincible. And then he fights the local god and ultimately loses and then leaves, only to come back 2 years later. But in your mind, when you're a little kid, you're thinking, this guy's been, 2 years doing everything he can to become as gnarly as humanly possible, only to come back here. But really what I didn't understand is he was hopping from region to region to region to region to region, finally got his way back, time for the monster to fight the hero again. So I loved regional wrestling, and I used to go to the wrestling matches occasionally in Mississippi and Tennessee, where I grew up, and it was just amazing. And we got the greatest regional wrestlers in the world that would come through these smaller towns. And then in the early 80s, when Vince McMahon was gearing up to become a national organization, and I saw Iron Sheik and Hulk Hogan, and Hogan pinned Sheik, and that not only was national news, but it got to kids. Like, somehow it was such a big piece of news. It was almost like a sporting event, like a World Series type of thing. That was before WrestleMania, right? That was Hogan beats Sheik and becomes the champion. And that was such a big deal that it generated just a lot of excitement and eyeballs. So now I was really excited about regional wrestling still, because I was excited, but I was even more excited about what looked like a cartoon that came to life with all of these giant human beings. So that was the time. I would say early 80s. Maybe I was like 8. And then by the time, the mid 80s came around, I was a huge fan.
It's true. Like I say, guys our age are so lucky because we've got to experience it from then. I remember when Hogan beat the Sheik. I remember Bob Backlund's champion. I remember it being on the front cover of the Daily News every day, like leading up to WrestleMania. And it's like, how lucky are we that we got to experience all of that right through to AEW?
Very. And by the way, AEW is an interesting one, because AEW is potentially showing us how you can get the best of regional wrestling in a national/global organization by doing these forbidden door and inviting in other organizations, and doing it in a very collaborative manner, where it's not just domination, because you're the bigger, or you've got a better opportunity to communicate what it is that you're doing. Yeah. But the more of these that they do with, Japan or Mexico or the UK or wherever it may be, the more there is the opportunity to almost have that regional flair. I think that's missing, and I thought WWE had the chance to do that with NXT, and cycle talent through, because if you can cycle talent, you can do things that are extremely dynamic and unexpected and shocking. Losing your hair is one thing. Losing your job is another thing entirely.
It's a beautiful thing. I love seeing that aspect of it now. Like you get your local indie talents that show up on the AEW Darks and stuff like that. Like one of my buddies, Ego Robert Anthony, he's wrestled in Chicago. He got to wrestle at the United Center, and it was like on his bucket list, But it's super cool to see them, kind of turn out everybody and make it important. It makes it like, even if you're just the kid that's going to the local indie shows and you get to see your guy up on that big stage, it means the world to not only the guy performing but the fan. And it's a beautiful thing, man.
And I like Ego. He seems to really have his stuff together. When you read his posts, he's got a great perspective on life.
Absolutely. Great guy. Always has been. I met him a few years back when I was working with Billy Corgan's Resistance Pro Wrestling up here in Chicago, and we just kind of became fig buddies, and that's how it all started. It was all over toys, man. So it was really cool. Yeah.
It's AEW. I grew up in a WWE bubble. I was a fanboy for 40 years. I didn't venture out of that bubble until Chris Jericho went to AEW. Like, it's like, oh, I need to follow. And I would watch it in the beginning and fast forward through most of it. But now, like, I'm all in on AEW. Love AEW. We've seen you tweet it so many times. AEW is the best wrestling company in the world, which I agree with. But why do you say that?
Oh, I like to stir the shit. I mean, I'm just like, I am not above that. I'm not above that at all. I think it's really fun. And I think competition is really good for wrestling. And if I can be a little part of that, then I feel like I'm doing my duty. The more AEW is real, and it is, but the more it is, the better wrestling is in general. It lifts every boat. Like, honestly, having one dominant player in any industry puts you at the mercy of that dominant player's ability to create without being pushed by any other thing. And it's the reason why, laws, monopolistic laws exist, even though I'm not suggesting that having one player means it's a monopoly. But there are reasons why these laws exist. And if you had one company that was producing eggs, or one company that was producing milk, or one company that's producing, you name it, it puts you in a position where you can be as bland as humanly possible and drive the most profit that you can possibly produce. And I'm not suggesting that WWE does that. What I am suggesting, however, is that competition pushes them. And you saw that with the Attitude Era, and you saw it, like, WCW, WWE days were awesome.
Yeah.
They were great days. They were I mean, there are classic athletes, wrestling athletes, who were in the game for 2 or 3 years that are legends and Hall of Famers, just because it was such a huge time. Bigger than life, that the early 80s, the late 90s, and I would argue today is another era where we're in a, it's almost like with comic books, golden age, silver age, bronze. It's like, I feel like we're kind of there right now. We're like we're in that why? Because you've got multiple organizations that are pushing and driving to make it really exciting.
Yeah,
I agree, man. It's so true, because WWE is now being pushed that their product's actually starting to get better because their back is against a wall because of the competition. We'd never got Cody just jumped back to WWE. We never got the Cody Action toy line. I'm a little disappointed about that.
We didn't make nearly enough Cody figures. That's the problem.
I love all
the thing the thing that you shared on your social media the other day of, like, you reminiscing of, like, the Cody, that little meme. That's so funny.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was no. You can elaborate on that. I was gonna go on the tangent.
No, I listen again. I deeply appreciate the fact that I'm part of any of this at all. It makes me so proud, frankly speaking. And I forget. I give credit to whoever created that. But as soon as I saw it, I had to share it. It was so well done.
So funny.
And there's truth in it. I mean, the funniest things have a little truth, right?
Yeah.
And so if I said, for instance, and truth drives, but if I said, AEW is the greatest wrestling promotion in the world, and it was obviously patently untrue, nobody would really be interested or share it. But the fact that it is either true or it's true-ish is enough to catch everybody. Yeah, and I'm going to do that. 6 times a year, I'm going to post that. Every single time, drive people nuts, and I love it. It makes me very happy.
It's great, man. So I got a question. So we're sitting here. It's early 2020, right before everything gets shut down. You guys get out there. You do your big reveals for all this beautiful AEW line, not knowing what the future was holding. How is that to kind of launch a toy line in the middle of chaos. I mean, I know there was hiccups with releasings and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Either way, we're all happy now, but
yeah.
I know it had to have been difficult. And I was just wondering if you could paint a little brighter picture on it.
I have no problem explaining that manufacturing is a challenging and not the game for perfectionists for so many reasons. I mean, number one, you deal with a bunch of folks. Whenever you deal with a bunch of people, your problems are only as small as the person who creates the most of them on the entire team. And when you're dealing with a bunch of folks, you've got to cut everyone some slack because there's going to be issues that occur. There's going to be things that COVID was interesting because it wasn't just the fact that a bunch of us were potentially failable and, could have a mistake. It was now you couldn't even communicate well with your team in China. You certainly couldn't go visit. That team, by the way, was having all kinds of challenges locally. They couldn't even get to work. Yeah. Factories were cutting. So, one of the reasons why we have inflation is not because demand was greater, and that's the only reason. The other reason is that supply was cut across the boards. And when you cut supply, it takes a long time to get it back. So essentially what occurred, I'm going to answer your question fully. Yeah. But essentially what occurs is COVID hits, the factories go, we're not going to need as many factory workers because the demand's going to be lower, right? Of course it's going to be lower. We're going to cut back on the factory workers. We're going to cut back on the material acquisitions. We're going to cut back on the corrugate acquisitions. The shipping containing companies are going, oh my God, we better park some of these things and anchor them and staple them to the ocean floor for a bit, because how in the heck are we ever going to make money in this global catastrophe? Okay, so all of that's happening in real time. In the meantime, what do? We all go home and work just the way we were working before. And don't get me wrong, I know that people lost their jobs, they lost their livelihoods, they lost a lot during that time. But the demand didn't reflect that in general, okay? For the people that lost their gigs, the other thing that also existed that never existed in our economy before was the app-based solutions to all the issues. And like, how do I get food? How do I, get a car? How do I do all these? It was all available to you different ways. So it shifted where people were working. Also, Zoom and all of the digital ways of sharing information allowed us not to cut people we didn't lose a single employee. In fact, we hired over 100 people during COVID the first year. So the point of the matter is that you had several things going on. Workers were cut in China. Materials were not purchased. Boats were not shipping. And demand went up. Okay? So everyone's preparing for demand to go down, so they reduce supply. Demand goes up and supply comes down. When that happens, inflation occurs. Why? Because everybody wants those pellets. Everybody wants that corrugate. Everyone wants that ship. And all of these companies are still trying to maintain their profitability. All hell breaks loose. So, amongst all of that going on, at the same time, we're trying to compete and make sure that we get the product at the right price, to the right place on time. And everybody is going like, hey, I'm still buying stuff. Where's my stuff?
Yeah.
So the mistake that I made was, at the time, I had said, hey, we're shipping and we're going to be in store at this date. And what I was describing as best as I could is that 99.9% in my work history, and probably 99.99% in the history of toys, because I've been around for at least a tenth of that at this point in my life, if you predicted a date, you'd get it. But during COVID, you could have predicted a date and gotten it, but they cut all the supply. And so essentially, I know I'm giving a long-winded answer, but I hope it helps educate, because it was such a shock to all of our systems. And we're still today seeing the effects, because the shipping containers and everything else and the lack of avails, it pushed prices up. And when pricing goes up, everywhere along the chain, you name it, looks for a way to capture that margin.
Yeah.
And so, but I suspect that in the next year or two, you're going to see a real, like, it's not even going to be like this on inflation. It's going to be like this on inflation. Like, it's not going to stick around, because so much of it is artificial.
Yeah. And guys, this is why you must follow Jeremy on social media, because his social media, like I follow him for wrestling figures, like Magic said, but I learned so much from the guy, and he puts it in terms that make it understandable. So like, I'll go have a conversation and sound smart because I'll just quote something Jeremy said.
Thank you.
It works. Yeah. No, it's crazy that, just as a collector, I always try to say patience is a virtue. You never, especially nowadays, you never know when something's going to come. Even if you get tracking number, don't believe it. It could be a day or two late. It's just part of the territory that we're all involved in.
Mike, intent matters. Intent matters. Okay. And what I mean by that is, you can always tell the intent by the willingness to admit mistakes and by the willingness to communicate what's going on. And so for us, and keep in mind, this is also trying to foster a new relationship with a licensor. Like, if this happened today, the trust that's built in is significantly higher than it is at the very beginning of any business relationship. But they still gave us a lot of trust, because they knew what a massive challenge the world was going through. I will say, they were very impressive. All of wrestling really was impressive for, making it work during a very difficult time. But no, but to get back to the point, like, intent matters, and here's why. If someone comes at you with a lot of hubris and ego, you cut them less slack, because they don't care as much about you than when someone comes at you and says, I fucked up. Here's what I did wrong. I want you to understand why it's happening. I'm not going to try to like sit here and beg for your forgiveness, but I want you to understand, here are the things that are happening in the world. Because 2 years later, I can say to you, it all sounds true, because it is.
Yeah.
If I had come and said, I don't even know, we signed this thing, it's really working out, guys. I'm just trying to think, and we're going to make a ton of money. Don't worry about it. It's going to be great. Like, I don't think people respect that as much. I just don't. No. Treat people like they're smart.
Yeah.
Because they generally are.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, absolutely.
You were talking all about like the AEW line and stuff. I want to know. We've got some comments here as well. I want to shout out everyone watching here on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, whatever it may be. Thank you all for watching. We got freaking Jeremiah the Fig Guy. We got myself, Mike, Tom. Check us out, turnbuckletavern.com, for all your social medias and stuff like that. Nice little segue into this question. Love when a segue is so obvious you just say it's a segue. But that's what it is, right? No, but people are bringing up like a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive this year for Jazzwares, maybe even the AEW line. Can you speak on that a little bit, and what kind of made you want to do a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive?
All right, so again, all straightforward, honesty, etc. It's been a long time since I've been in San Diego as a major manufacturer. I mean, our growth has been pretty spectacular. And, my last couple companies, we kind of would just walk the floor. I've walked the floor, I feel like, in 20-something different Comic-Cons, but didn't really participate. It's a bit of a intense thing to do. But anyways, this year we have a large space, and we are doing 7 different exclusives. One of them is going to be an AEW exclusive. There's going to be some Squishmallows and Halo and some other things like that, and some big announcements. But there is going to be an AEW exclusive, and we'll announce the days that these things will be going on, and the quantities, and the way we go about it. But the reason why is that, well, I mean, first of all, it's fun to be part of the. It's just fun to be part of it, man. I don't know the best way to put it. Like we want to be part of the psyche. We want to be part of the club. You know, it's not a significantly profitable thing to do. Setting up the booth, bringing all the people, making sure that they've got great accommodations. Yeah, you're selling things for a little bit more than you would at retail. However, you're selling so few that you'll never make your money back on it. It's so. I think we're just doing it because, you know, we're part of the industry, and we want to kind of flex a little bit and show everybody what we're about. And it's really great to communicate with fans of various brands. And frankly speaking, I can't wait to go and, you know, because 2.5 years of working on my own social media, I'll be interesting to see what happens sitting there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe not your best answer, because it really wasn't a business oriented answer. Like this is really because it's fun, and we just want to be part of the mix.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you want to be a part of everything, like, because you said as long as people say AEW is real and there's truth behind it and stuff like that, I feel like that's kind of what you're alluding to as well here, because like if you're a part of this with other toy manufacturers, then you are, you know, you're in that family. You know, you're number 4 in the world, like in the US and the world. Who knows? Maybe I'm saying the world. God damn it, you're number 1 in my hearts, Jeremy. How about that?
Thank you. Man, you know, it's interesting as you get bigger. It is true that things become a little bit more challenging. I mean, there's certainly benefits to getting larger, distribution, and you don't have to like beg people to trust you as they're taking product from you. Your ability to customer service and all of those things just goes through the roof. You're able to hire tremendous talent, but also, you know, you become farther and farther and farther away from what's happening in the day to day when you've got so much stuff going on. But it's been almost for every negative, there's 2 positives in growth. And, you know, now I can say that, you know, I started off, it's funny. I started off at Mattel, which was a great experience. And when I left there, this person in my exit interview was like, "Hey, I understand you're going to a smaller company." At the time, JAKKS was about 150 million in volume. And he said, "You know, you can never really come back to $1 billion company." He goes, "You're leaving $1 billion company. You can never really come back, you know." Well, we built that company almost to $1 billion, and then I helped start a company that is well beyond $1 billion. So, how about that? So, anybody that tells you can't do it, just go do it on your own. You don't need $1 billion company to pick you up. Just go make one. And I say that a little tongue in cheek because it is hard. But just because somebody else works for a company that's 100 years old doesn't mean that you couldn't do it better if given the opportunity. If you're willing to be resilient, you're willing to take a few lumps, and you're willing to do a lot of compartmentalizing in your brain, because you really have to convince yourself that you're going to be damn good during the tough times. But yeah, man, I don't even remember what the original question was. I'm going on. Me neither.
I think we said something. What year is it? 2005? I'm so good. What's happening? I just got here mentally.
When did you first realize? Because I know when I first realized. When did you first realize you were a collector?
Oh my goodness, I was really young, really, really young. I was very fortunate. My brother is 13 years older than me. My parents had him when they were teenagers, and they had me when they were in their early 30s. And so the other thing is, my parents, as lovely as they are, because they got together when they were so young, they fought like cats and dogs. So my older brother would always kind of take me into his space, and he was a collector. He collected coins and magazines and shortwave radios and ham radios and antiques and everything. And he would work. He'd work at, Shoney's or whatever, and he'd bring his tips home and he'd buy stuff. And while those weren't necessarily my interests, I liked sports and memorabilia, and I like coins a little bit, stuff like that. One of the ways that we connected is I would hang out with him. He'd take me to flea markets. He'd give me like $5. I'd buy like a Indian head penny or something like that. And I loved it. And as I got a little bit older, I would use my allowance to go to card shows, or I would go to, or I would, look through magazines at things that were offered, in the little black classified, area, whatever it was, old scorecards from baseball games. We have 50 scorecards from the 1960s Cardinals. I'd be like, great, I got those for $5. I mean, so yeah, as early as like 3 or 4 years old, I really enjoyed collecting. By the time I was maybe 6, I understood that there were some economic benefits of collecting. And my whole life, I have been a real collector. And then as I've gotten older and financially successful, I've really gone after some Grail type things, which is exciting and fun, kind of like a culmination of a lot of time spent learning about what may have secondary market value and what may be of excitement or interest to other people and myself.
Oh, I also want to get into this because you don't only collect, wrestling stuff. You collect a lot of other stuff, and there are 2 things I want to bring up that I saw recently. Now I saw this when you originally got it. It's one of the first Harry Potter books or something like that. Get into that, because I know that's a nifty artifact, and that's a big story behind that.
Yeah, well, so again, here's the thing: you take a lot of risks in life if you really want to go for it, and I did, and it worked out. And I had times where I didn't know if we were gonna make payroll. I had times where we gave everybody else bonuses and didn't even collect a dime for 3 years. Like, there were some tough times. So I always have to preface this, because when I say this, it sounds so like, like I don't value or disregard value of how much money that we're talking about. But trust me, I do. So I had a theory, and my theory was that, Harry Potter is one of those brands that's at this crossroads of becoming extremely valuable, because the kids that were into it, when Potter was first released in the 96 2000 era, are now like in their mid 30s. They're getting a little older, they're getting more access to capital, they're getting better jobs, people are passing away that are inheriting money from, like, all ways that you are able to get access to capital are happening to people that really were into Harry Potter at the time. And there's a whole new generation of consumers and kids that are their children that they're sharing this experience with. And so about 4 years ago, I saw this pristine first edition, basically first print Harry Potter book, hardback book, hit market with Heritage Auctions, and it had a $25,000 estimate, and it sold for $82,000. And the reason why it did is because the author of that book series was a relative unknown, and so her first printing of the hardback book were only 500 copies, right? So 500 copies.
Oh, wow.
Of those 500 copies, 300 of them went to local libraries in the UK, and you know what happens to library books. They're not coveted pieces of memorabilia. They're beat to shit and read as they should be, right? They should be. It's a book. And then 200 of them went to private individuals, primarily people that had children who do what kids do with books. Open them up, shred them, enjoy them. So you're supposed to do. Well, for whatever reason, this pristine copy exists, and it traded at 82 grand. And so a couple years later, about a year and a half ago, I located this book, and I found the book dealer that had it. And at $82,000, it was the highest price ever paid for a modern book, I think printed in the last 50 years. So I paid $193,000 for this book. And then about 9 months after I bought it, and, you know, convincing my wife that I'm still smart and I haven't lost it, another copy sold for almost $500,000. So now, yeah, $497,000 or something like that. So here's the reality. The reality is, when you pass the threshold and collectors take something very, very seriously, the gains on the highest end of any collector spectrum are massive. Okay. And I'll give you an example of something crossing the threshold. Okay. So the 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle card in PSA 10 condition, there's only 3 of those in the world. And in 1999, one sold for, I think, $250,000. It was a lot of money. And it opened a lot of eyes because people were like, what in the living hell would a Mickey Mantle card? Well, that card today, if it sold, would sell for $35 million. Okay. So $250,000 goes into 35 million 120 times. All right. Yeah. Now, the reason why I say that is because I'm not saying that my Harry Potter book that I bought for, you know, a couple $100,000 is going to go up 120 times to $24 million. But I do understand economic systems well enough to understand that people are taking that very seriously. They're taking the entire Harry Potter universe very seriously. And when these kids that are in their 30s or in their 50s, I'm going to get a great return on my investment. I'm going to be old as hell, and I'm not going to anchor my children down to my collectible exploits. But I will, you know, hand them a check one day when I croak. And that's the truth. There's my long, again, answer. But that's the history of the Harry Potter book. That's why I bought it. And I also love the Harry Potter series. Love it. I think it is exceptional. And I think it's been great for what it's done for kids and their imaginations.
Yeah, 100%. One question as well. How about we cut a deal? One Harry Potter book, I'll give you a handshake, and then boom, under the table, completely done. Right? Right?
Hold on, I'd like to know a little bit more. You're gonna have to send me the fine print before I.
The fine print, yeah. One handshake is the fine print. But I and that as well. That's a crazy freaking story. But that's not all in your collecting as well. Something I also want to bring up is I think you have the whole set of the first edition Pokemon cards, PSA 10. Yeah. Am I right in saying that? Go into that a little bit. That's crazy. Yeah.
So, Pokemon is one of my defining brands of my career. And in 2006, I was lucky enough to lead the charge of getting Pokemon away from Hasbro. Had it before. And I little did I know that Pokemon would become the largest kids entertainment, or really entertainment, franchise brand of all time. And it has become, here's a stat that I love, and then I'll answer your question. I can't answer any questions short. So.
Good. No, we don't want you to answer questions short. We want the longest winded answers.
Thank you. So here's a stat that I love. So the number 2 entertainment property of all time is Star Wars. And Star Wars has done, I think, $65 billion since 1977 in consumer products. And so that's roughly, $1.5 billion a year in consumer products, right? Pokemon is number 1. Wow. And since 1996, roughly 25 years, it's done over $120 billion. Wow. So that's why annualized basis, if you look at the global retail impact and footprint of Pokemon, it's been about 4 times Star Wars. Now, as a it blows my mind. But in 2006, it was an interesting time because Pokemon was doing decently, but it wasn't at its apex that it was when it launched in the late 90s in the US. And so there were a lot of questions about longevity and where does this go from here. And I believed in it. And luckily enough for me, they believed in me and they believed in us. So in 2016 or 17, when they were looking for a new partner again, we'd started our new toy company several years before that. They took us very seriously, even though we were small. And then they granted us the global rights right before Pokemon Go hit. And
lucky.
Game changer. Lucky is true. But you know how many times you have to be unlucky before you're lucky?
Yeah.
You have to be unlucky so much before you're lucky. It's really interesting the way life works that way. If you ever feel unlucky, it just means you're trying. It means some shit happened to you. And shit happens usually generally because you're trying. And if you can just keep going, one day people say, man, you were super fortunate. But guess what? Only because you were unfortunate 100 times before. So leading to answer your question. So when we sold our company, we sold most of the company, we retained some, which is great. Very good because now we're huge. But when we sold most of the company, I wanted to show Pokemon personally that I wasn't one of those people that sells, runs off into the sunset and ends up in Cabo drunk and enjoying the hell out of myself, which by the way is still gonna happen.
Still a truth, right?
Still a possibility. Yes, still a possibility. Unfortunately, I like food a lot more than I like alcohol.
Yeah, I've been there.
But I haven't tried all the drugs. Maybe that's going to be my forte. I'm not sure yet. I wanted to prove to Pokemon that I was really in the game. And so I put a lot of money, like $1 million into Pokemon collectibles before it blew up, which was good timing again. Lucky as hell. But one of the things I bought was a PSA 10 full 1999 complete set of the US first edition cards. So everything, all.
I want to say how hard it is to get PSA 10 on anything as well, especially Pokemon cards, because the thing about Pokemon cards, you can look at a regular card and be like, oh, it's fine, it's perfect, but there's very, very little intricacies, like whether the border on a Pokemon card is slightly to the left or slightly to the right or perfectly centered, especially with the back, and it goes for the art as well. So it's like insanely difficult to get a PSA 10. So you're blowing my mind here.
Well, so there's only 12 sets in the world that are complete sets.
Wow.
And so if you think about the sheer number of cards that they sold back in the day, even though the first edition sets were less plentiful. So yeah, that's the reason why I did it. And I paid like $129,000, and I think I've seen a really huge return on investment just in terms of what it's worth now. But that's not the point. The point of the matter is, I followed what I loved. I wanted to make a point. I did it, and I do believe that the return on investment will in the long term be great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I always say collect with your heart. Don't collect with thoughts of payouts and stuff like that, because you're going to put yourself in a hole, and then you're going to be surrounded by a bunch of shit that you don't need or don't want necessarily, can't get rid of, and it's just you always go with what you like, what your life is all about. Like that's why we are we are with
collect with your heart for sure, but be guided by the economic principles that only your brain can understand.
Our little loaves.
Look at that. That's exceptional. Like it's exceptional. And to me, I totally disassociate myself with stuff like that. Like I don't even remember making or being a part of that. All I see is a great collectible that is going to be very meaningful, and that people will think about when they think about AEW, and it'll shape the things that they aspire. Like, again, like I was a little kid that couldn't afford a lot of stuff. I was one of those people that paid for college and all that. But when I was a kid, man, I knew the valuable stuff and I aspired to have something like that. So I know that there are little kids right now that are aspiring, like the thing you just pulled up, that Cody. They're looking at it and they're going like, oh man,
The great
I had that thing.
And you've been there, which is the coolest thing, and you've created stuff like that, which I think is like completely full circle.
Yeah, man, it's really cool. I'm really proud of all that. For
You
sure.
come out with these guys and you're making me chase a whole set.
Where
I
are you on the path to collecting that set? That's a tough set.
It is a tough set. I've really I just got 5 more packs, so I got to sit down, open them, and see exactly what I need left after that.
Are you finding that the cards are relatively evenly distributed across? Like,
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I have very few duplicates. It's very crazy.
That's great.
Yeah. So, but I love them. I love collecting cards. I love collecting figures. What you've done with these AEW JAZWARES figures are amazing. The ringside collectibles, exclusives, the packaging, everything about them. I have to buy 2 because I don't want to open it because of how beautiful they are.
Yeah.
See? It was worth spending a little bit more money on the packaging.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
how ironic.
Yeah, and the people that work for JAZWARES as well. We got a few people in the chat. Magic, Chris Metzger to name just a couple. But dude, everyone you have working, they're all like-minded like you. I feel like, and they all gel well, and I think that's what makes JAZWARES and the AEW partnership perfect, in my opinion. Like, there's very few things I would change.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not a coincidence that you surround yourself by the people we've gotten to know working for you.
Well, that's the thing. We want people to know the folks that are working on the brands that are the collectible brands. We don't want to hide anything. Like, it's important to know that there are real humans that, again, like, if you don't know that there are humans behind it, you don't cut breaks when you make mistakes. Like, if Metzger screws up on a package or whatever, it's one thing if you don't know that he exists. It's another thing if you know he exists. You cut him a break because guess what? He's a human who cares about this thing. So, yeah, I mean, like, he's great. Magic and listen, the whole team is great. Yeah. Magic's been here from the very beginning on the AEW brand, and his passion is unparalleled. And, Greg and even Steph and Kevin and, I could keep going. Ray, I could keep naming people. They love the brand. They love being a part of it. And listen, we're all part of the circus, man. We're all part of the circus. It's awesome. It's awesome to be part of the circus.
Yeah, no, it's great people who care about their product shows in the product. And I feel like that's a test of time. You could have somebody come in that might be the master of doing whatever, but if he doesn't know what he's working on, like a wrestling or Pokemon or whatever the case is, it's going to show, and it's going to collectors and fans will notice it as well. And it shows that these guys care so much about what they're doing and put the effort into it, and just like yourself and everybody else. But it's, we see that as collectors. We see when you share our stuff on Instagram, how happy it makes everybody. And, you get the Orange Cassidy's going, wow, look how cool that picture is, and slap it up on their stuff. Like, it means the world to us, man.
Well, imagine, so when you're making action figures of superheroes or Pokemon, the only thing you have to deal with is the licensor and fans and the consumers, the fandom, but when you are making real life superheroes, you really have a whole different level of care. Like, your standard of care is through the roof, because how do you get away with not caring when you've got 100 people who have done nothing but spend their whole life trying to establish themselves, and all of them are entrepreneurs, every single one of them. Like how do you possibly not do your best under those circumstances when you've got real life humans who, like, honestly, like, I can think of situations where, we've made an action figure and maybe the biceps are too small, or the chest isn't reflective of the amount of work that person's put in to build up their strength. And, every time that sits with all of us. Like, we all want to make sure that we capture it, we do it right. But again, the team always knows that I've got their back when mistakes are made, because I'm the first one that'll make a mistake. But if you're passionate and you care about it and people understand your intent, that's all that matters, because they know that you want to get it right, and you'll give it up the next time.
I think we've definitely learned that from the dealings with you on social media, the dealings with everybody else, and just how communicative you are with everyone, and the whole brand is. And as a collector, it makes you want to support the brand even more. Like, you love it, you take a passion in it, and it's just a beautiful thing. We could sit here and chat with you all night long. We're absolutely loving this, but we
should 4-hour fig night, baby. Come on.
We know you have your day to go on with, so we'll wrap it up. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Well, I'll tell you this, guys. You guys, we could bail, we could wrap up, or if you want to take a couple of questions from the community, I'll also be open to that if you're down.
Sure.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
We don't listen. We're not trying to rush you. We just don't want to hold you past your time. But
okay. let's do another 15 minutes, and I'll answer some questions from the community of folks that showed up today. I'd be happy to do that.
I saw a question earlier from Don DeBomb Smith asking if Jazzwares and AEW are close to it. Is there any chance you'll be signing legends to bring into the line that aren't like you did with the Classic Superstars line?
Yeah, I mean, I think yes. First of all, yes. Luminaries is a good indicator of that, but what I would say to anybody who's doing deals and you're a classic wrestling superstar of one way or the other is don't sign exclusive deals. Don't sign exclusive deals with us. We won't even ask you to do that because you should be celebrated in various ways. So yeah, we're down. We're definitely up for that, and it's just a matter of making sure that the timing is right. And remember, if you put a classic line out and it fails at mass retail, you don't get a second chance at it. So we're just making sure that we build up the right program before we extend that way.
Another person, I've seen this question multiple times today, asking, what is Unrivaled 72? A missing box somewhere where it just skipped the number from.
Are you saying we missed 72? Is that what's occurred? Or
I believe that's what he's saying. I don't know if he wants to know what number set Unrivaled 72 is.
Yeah, he wants to know the future, what Unrivaled 72 is going to be.
He knows you have a time machine.
Negative one will be in it.
I love it.
What a beautiful set that was, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
They crushed it. So 72. I'll go back. I'll do a little research on that. Magic, if you're watching this, maybe you can fill me in, and we can let people know what the mystery of 72 is. And if there is a mystery of 72 and it's something that we did on accident, then we're gonna play that sucker up for all it's worth.
Every set's gonna have a 2 at the end now. It's gonna be Unrivaled 92. It's gonna be great. But there's another question here. I've been seeing this a lot around social media, and I want to know if you can touch on this by any chance. It's the UFC Series 2. I know you've been getting hollowed out for a long time about this. So yeah, what do you have on this?
Oh, they're right. They should be, disappointed, and I'm disappointed too. So, we put out Series 1. I think it went out there promotionally, like on an end cap, and Amazon and maybe a little ringside. I don't remember if Jonathan took it or not.
He did.
Trevor. But yeah, so they took a little bit of it. It did okay. It didn't rock. It didn't rock Worlds, but it was good. It deserved more placement, and we're working on something right now that should be able to get another series out there. I've got my fingers crossed, but it's been a harder sell. I'll give you one theory, okay? And I'm going to do my best here to articulate it in an efficient manner so we can get a couple more questions before we go. But here's my theory, okay? My theory is when you are dealing with a professional wrestling fan, okay, you're dealing with someone who is willing to suspend reality a little bit. Like for me, I'll be happy to communicate to you that I don't just collect action figures. I'll play with them a little bit. I'm not afraid to say that.
Absolutely. Oh my God. Shout it from the heavens. Yes, please.
Right. So in fact, just talking about it makes me want to have a match right now somehow. But No, but why not, right? So, but that is the mind of the comic book person. That is the mind of the people that loves Marvel movies or DC movies. It's the anime mind. It's the superhero mind. It's the professional wrestling mind. On the other side, you've got the reality of getting punched in the face over and over. What's more real than that? There's nothing more real than MMA. You can get kicked or punched or submitted or, man, I love it so much. I'm such a big fan of the fight game, but it is less fantasy. Now, you may fantasize that you're getting in the ring. You might be, on a jog or something and, visualizing yourself in that way. But that's not the same as being able to want to have action figures that you might play it out, or it's just a different mentality. And because the mentality is more real, it might lead to other consumer products that are more fitting, like, maybe exercise oriented products where you actually get a physical benefit. That might be tougher for wrestling, but it's easier for MMA. The figures did okay. So now we got to figure out a way to make okay become great. And we've got some thoughts on that. We'll see if we can bring them to life.
That's awesome. I have a question from a buddy from Instagram who was nagging me the second he found out you were coming on, but he is obsessed with the idea, and I totally understand the sentiment. But for an AEW steel cage or some kind of accessory to fit with rather the authentic scale or the mini ring,
Blood and guts.
Yes, when I was not a little kid, when I was a teenager, one of my last trips to Toys R Us with my mom was to just go check out the toy section, because we were doing that. We just moved out, we're a little grown up. We were on a dinner date, and I went to Toys R Us and I bought that real scale, authentic scale, whatever you want to call it, but the Hell in the Cell that you guys made under JAKKS Pacific, and that was one of the. As an adult collector, I was like, man, if I had this as a kid, I would have tore shit up. This is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Biggest regret in anything that I've sold.
Yeah, and I bought every single real scale playset that you guys made because I was obsessed with the quality of them, man.
We made the elimination chamber too.
Yeah, I love the elimination
chamber.
That
was insane.
That's a collector's piece nowadays too. It's awesome, man.
They both were. I had my Hell in a Cell mint in box, and I sold it for a good chunk of change a few years back. I'm so annoyed at myself.
Well, Magic and Chris, let's do something crazy. That's all I'm saying. Let's do something crazy. So first of all, there should be the opportunity to play in a cage oriented environment. We should be doing more like that, but I want to do something nuts. Like I want to do something really badass, and we'll figure it out.
I'm here for it. I love badass and nuts and crazy.
Like blood and guts cage set, baby.
We just need to celebrate the world in a bigger way, and I'll bet you we can. How about you?
We're going to put a full-size human in one of these boxes one day, I think. Instead of like an action figure accessory, it's going to be a person.
Yeah, you're going to open it up and Magic's going to pop out of the box, and you're going to be like,
Honey, I Shrunk Magic. It's going to be a ringside exclusive. Honey, I Shrunk Magic. Boom, put it in the playset.
I love it.
Don Smith was asking more about LJNs and signing, we talked about signing guys, but signing those guys that were missing from the LJN days and making an LJN out of them. I love that idea.
You know what's so funny? LJN to me, like from the LJN days, the one thing that I loved about that line is that they did get pretty obscure. I mean, like they didn't just focus on, like they could have just focused on the A level top of the card talent. Yeah, there's Magic. All right, Magic's gonna go in a box. We're gonna ship him off to somebody. We'll see what happens. I just want to say, man's vegan. Please take care of him. He's a lovely guy, but he's got a specific and very refined palate.
I don't know if you guys have seen Scott Pilgrim versus the World, but vegans in that movie, they have superpowers. So don't get on Magic's bad side, okay? That's all I'll say.
That's good. This is great.
Yeah, there we go.
Metzger, on the other hand, is like me. I think he'll basically eat practically anything, but that's okay. All I don't even remember. What was the question? What was the
About
question?
signing guys to
Oh.
contracts that might have been missing from the LJN set from when we were kids and making an LJN of them.
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought the LJN was pretty. Like, give me a couple examples of folks that weren't in the line who were active at that time in that 1984 to 88 time.
Demolition Smash, we got Axe. We have Warlord, but we don't have the Barbarian.
Got it.
Those are coming.
How much? So yeah, I absolutely be up for stuff like that. That sounds so fun. I have a question. All right. First of all, I want to make an admission on something, and then I want to ask you guys a question. So the admission is that I really wish, and I know that we all wish, that we could have made the new LJN figures the exact same scale as the original figures. It's a miss at the previous organization, a miss at this one, but it's just almost impossible to ship something of that scale in the existing packaging. So we have to, unfortunately, there's not going to be an opportunity to have an LJN stripe at retail that's a dedicated LJN line. It would be too difficult to maintain the velocity of sale. So you have to force fit it into your footprint. So that's my admission. And then here's my question. If I wanted a mint on card LJN collection to really celebrate my own excitement and interest, how much am I looking at? Am I going to have to put $100,000 into putting together the perfect LJN collection?
Dude, some of the black cards are around $10,000 mint on card.
Got it.
Wow.
And
I'm looking because I still have all my LJNs from when I was a kid. I never got rid of them. I knew I was a collector because I never let my mom throw anything out. I used to have to buy an extra TV guide because I wanted one to keep if it was somebody I liked on a cover without the label that came. But I love the LJNs, and I'm trying to complete my black card list set because my parents wouldn't let me order them as a kid. I have all the originals, so I'm trying to complete that. But I've done research, and whenever I see somebody I need, like I saw Haku, he was like $7,500 mint on card.
Wow.
Andre the Giant, the black label, black strap, $10,000.
Wow. Well, we probably need to connect because I know somebody who has the financial wherewithal to do some stupid stuff. No, I have such a will to do this. I just have never gotten around to it, and I just feel like it's such a great to me. I understand how many people love those Hasbros, the 80s Hasbros. The 90s Hasbros, early 90s before we took over the line. And I get it. But, man, the LJNs are the defining action figure line of my childhood.
Me too. I'm right with you. I was online. I picked them up the first day they came out at the local toy store. It was much like Ringside. It was a little local toy store. It wasn't Toys R Us. They got everything in before Toys R Us. It was a little more expensive, but you knew you were going to get it. Yeah. And I was calling there every day up until the day they were released. And my mom jumped in a car and drove me there. We got the first four because Iron Sheik was delayed, and I still don't know why he wasn't released.
I wish I could ask Jack Friedman for you, but unfortunately he passed because he was such an interesting guy. Like the J in LJN was a very interesting guy. You guys should just know. Maybe we'll talk about him more one day.
Yes, please. Cool. These guys.
You put the J in JAZWARES, so it kind of works out, right?
One of the J's, that's for sure.
And honestly, I love I have the Cody's. I have like 6 of the Cody LJNs of the red and the blue. Like I just buy them whenever I see them. No Cody left behind. The scale's not that far off. I love the scale. I have 0 issues with it.
Okay, how far off? What are we? A half inch?
Something like that.
It's something like that. Like he's almost the same size as Jimmy Snuka. Like I put those two next to each other. There's pictures on my Instagram. I'll send it to you later, just to show you. Like I did all comparison. It's not that much.
Well, I know. Listen, our team did a great job. They did a great job. 100%. It's just stickler for being absolutely true to my favorite line. It's hard to get it there exactly. So.
Yeah, you guys. My favorite thing was when Tom opened up his Cody live with me. He was like, "Oh, it smells like the old LJNs." Like it was one of those things. Like I felt his nostalgia through it, and I was like, "Oh, that makes me so happy, man."
One more quick question. Like we see, so many companies, independent toy companies now signing guys. We have Fig Heel who came out with the check. Did you see that checklist book he came out with? It's an amazing encyclopedia.
I need to see it.
It's basically an encyclopedia checklist thing that covers
Of
every
all-
wrestling release ever. Unbelievable. Like, look
Oh,
how
I
thick
need
that
to
boy
buy
is.
that. I need to
It's
buy
on
that.
Amazon. It's
Yeah.
there's a hardcover and a softcover version. Our buddy Matthew Goldberg did the
Yeah.
cover photography for it.
Wow,
Putney here.
Matt. Actually, I saw Matt Goldberg on this call. What a talent, man! I've known that guy since.
What a whippersnapper.
He's actually named us his official Fig Show of the Wrestle and Figure news source because he enjoys us so much and we work well together.
Wait, tell me what that guide is called. The Ultimate. I'm like gonna buy it right now.
The Ultimate Wrestle and Figure Checklist, the 2022 edition.
Brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant.
It's
That's
amazing.
absolutely brilliant. I wish. Listen, if I don't show up in that book, I am gonna go after Fig Heel though, whatever his name is.
Oh, I'm sure you're in this book.
I better be.
His micro rollers.
No,
everything.
There's a Jazzwares.
Wait, do they have face flipping fighters and what was the other disaster that I was a part of? Face flipping fighters and what was the one with the chest that would expand out?
Oh,
I know what you're talking about.
Rubber? I named these things, by the way. I named face flipping fighters. I thought I was a genius.
And guess what, Jeremy? If you want to find out the name of it, you should go to Amazon and get the Fig Heels new book, guys. Boom. Cheap plug.
The best thing about getting older is that you don't even remember all the mistakes you made anymore.
Kind of a gift and a curse, right?
Maybe there's a section here named Uncanny Brands. I wonder if that's it.
I'll have to remember. Somebody in the chat will remember.
Yeah.
Oh, Pump and Flex.
Pump and Flex. I remember those.
Dude, Pump and Flex, dude. God. You can't find a Pump and Flex that is in good condition because the rubber deteriorated. So,
right. Okay.
I want someone to show me a Pump and Flex that's actually maintained in good condition. That's what I really want to see.
Yeah.
If anybody has one, I might even buy it if they're down.
It's like the old Stretch Armstrong syndrome. All the plastic warped off, and the corn syrup got super hard on the inside.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's cool, man. I listen. I love those little cheeky one-off lines. Not a lot of companies will dabble like that. I always picked them up. I was just like, I had to have it because it's so unique and random, and I loved it.
I'm going to give you guys an idea. And you'll get 1 billion views. I think somebody needs to pull a Mr. Beast and read the checklist from start to finish in one sitting over the course of maybe 48 hours where they become absolutely delirious. You'll have millions of people.
That sounds good. You do. Like, again, without you and everything you've done for the wrestling figure community, I don't think this book exists. I don't think Heels and Faces and Cello Toys, we don't have all this now.
Thank you.
We don't have Fig Night here if it's not for you. So again, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for all you've done for the wrestling figure community throughout the years. And we're so glad you're back and stronger than ever.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be back. I'm so happy that you guys feel that way. And I definitely feel that, all that hard work and all of the time and effort to really take care of the fandom has really come back in a beautiful way. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you. Just tell everybody where they can follow you. I see you have a new YouTube channel out too.
Oh, well, yeah, there's not much going to be going on there. I just, but yeah, no. So first of all, Jazzwares is our company, at Jazzwares everywhere you go, JAZWARES. And then I believe on Twitter, I'm at Jeremy Com, C-O-M. And on Instagram, I'm at Jeremy Padawer. And on TikTok, I think it's the same, at Jeremy Padawer. So if you want to follow me, if you want to hear me talk about economic stuff and wrestling figures and random, crazy, bizarre nothingness, that's the place to go.
It's an amazing follow, guys. I follow him everywhere. I have actually set to alert. So when you post something, my phone tells me it's like, oh, there's another Jeremy posted.
It's like must see TV, but like
You just
must
marked
see
out
tweet.
on here.
Now, Jeremy, do whatever you want with that information. You can post whatever, and then Tom will get the notification.
Does it tell you when I'm responding to somebody else's post?
No.
Oh, thank God. Only when I post something new.
Yes.
Oh, dude, because I love to troll. And the thing is, I don't want you to see every troll that I ever do. Dude, I'm a troll. I'm a troll. I can't help it. Trolling.
Jeremy, have you seen The Office by any chance?
Yes, of course.
Have you been compared to Michael Scott at all?
Yes.
Ever? Okay, well, you're a great Michael Scott, and dude, we're so happy to have you here on the thing. Now, guys, if you're just tuning in and you missed anything, make sure to go back into the broadcast, watch the whole hour and 25 we just did with Jeremy. This has been such a fun chat, man. It was one of my goals in 2020, 2021. I wrote a goal down. It was to interview you, and this is now like it has come to be, and it's so freaking cool to actually talk to you here and have this.
You are welcome.
We want to have you back
anytime you want.
Part 2's coming, so
Yes.
love it. And then we'll do a part 3 after that. This is make this a routine.
It'll be a saga.
Hey, whoever's coming to San Diego Comic-Con, come by the Jazzwares booth and say hi to me. I'd love to see you. I'd love to see you there, and do a fist bump. I had COVID 4 weeks ago, so I'm immune. You can't get it from me. You can't give it to me. So hugs. I'm down. Let's go.
Got the natural antibodies now.
I do right now. Maybe a short window.
Yeah.
Get them while you can, guys. Get them while they're on.
Gotta catch them all, right?
There you go.
My quick note from my 2 lovely little daughters, big Squishmallow collectors. They just wanted me to say thank you, and they love the lines. And they're like 5 and 8. But
tell them
their
that
bedroom is just stocked.
Squishmallows is one of the most fun things to work on, and it's amazing that it is become what it's become. I can't believe it.
Yeah, natural phenomenon.
All right, guys. Until next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. From Mike, for Nick, thank you, Jeremy. Love, peace, and pro wrestling.